Got it right away.
Right. Okay. So here we go. I've started recording. Let me just give you the instructions straight ahead. So because there are some things that I'd like to explain first, let me finish that and then we'll have a discussion. Let me just share my screen and inform you on what we'll be doing today. Today we'll continue with the special area subject. It's on mistakes in recoveries. If you remember, and you probably do, last time we talked about the cause of why we dwell on our mistakes. In a nutshell, it's because of our childhood. You touch a hot kettle, you burn yourself, everyone yells at you, and they might whoop your ass or they might give you time out in the corner, and you will not dare make a mistake again. So it's because of how we treat mistakes that we are afraid of making them. They make us feel miserable, they make us feel regret, and they hurt. So as children, obviously, we're all very curious, inquisitive. We want to know stuff. We explore nature, right? And once our parents act like that, they have the best of intentions, by the way. Their execution is what's lacking. So once they do that, we are afraid of making mistakes and we lose our curiosity. That's what usually happens. Um, Another thing that's important is that once we get at that stage, it's important to accept the fact that everyone makes mistakes. Every single person that you know makes mistakes on a daily basis. So just accept that fact because it's going to make you feel better and treat yourself like your best friend. So when you make a mistake, there's no need for you to be miserable and make it worse, to be so harsh on you. Just talk to you and say, hey, I like you, you made a mistake, never mind, let's treat us some hot chicken wings, something like that. Then we talked about an article of how Western and Eastern civilizations or cultures treat mistakes. We saw an example in a classroom, in a Japanese classroom, where the kid couldn't draw the perfect cube, so the teacher asked him to come in front of the board and to do it in front of everyone. And out of 20 or 30 times, he eventually got it right, but it was very overwhelming for the guest who was American, because that's not something that we would do. Myself, as a teacher, if I see that someone is struggling in the classroom, I would probably try to hide it, to say, okay, you may not be able to do it now during the lesson. Why don't you just keep it down, study at home so these trolls don't laugh at you? Because we are a country full of trolls. We wait for people to make mistakes and laugh in their face. That's what usually happens. Then I talked about three more things. Wow, did we cover all of this?
Hello.
Hello. We talked about how men and women are treated differently when they make a mistake in certain aspects. For example, if it is a male specific industry, like construction or sports, if women make mistakes, the treatment is much harsher. People are much more strict with them because they're saying, what is a woman doing over there? She should be fired and let a man do his job. And, we talked about that, but you'll be able to check last week's lesson and just make sure you know everything. And we talked about Freudian slips. The example that's given over here, it could be a bit inappropriate, so I used a different example with three different control groups. The idea is that there is a conscious and an unconscious mind, so there are two minds working at the same time. And if the idea is that you cannot control the unconscious mind, that's one of the theories. But recently, linguists and neuroscientists have disclaimed that. They're saying, no, that's wrong. It's not because of your unconscious mind. It's actually how your brain processes language. So there was an experiment with three different groups where they were told to read words like mood or take. For one of the groups, they brought in food in the room, in the office, whatever it was. And just because they were focused on the food, instead of mood, they would read food, and instead of take, they would say cake. That's the whole idea. So there is apparently there is something working against us from the inside. However, there have been a lot of other studies which disclaim that theory. Today we're going to continue with the basics of SDT, signal detection theory. I think it's very important. Again, we're not doing this just for the sake of the Scholars Cup of the competition. This is something that's quite fun, and if you know it while you're hanging out with people, it might make you look cool. Then we'll talk about everyday mistakes, like pocket dialing. Everyone has done it at one point in their life. And I'll talk about two of the biggest epic fails of history. I think that's going to be quite interesting as well. So
really
once I
is.
finish, this is how we will organize the lesson. I'll explain the signal detection theory. I'll move on to the two epic fails, and then we'll have the discussion until the end, because some of you might want to go early. So I'll start with this. I'll start with a question, actually. I know that you guys don't drive, at least I hope so. But when your
I
parents...
drive. I mean,
What?
I know how to drive.
I'll have
It's
a
a
word.
flex, yes,
I'll have a
thank you.
word with your parents. Okay. So when your parents are supposed to park in a very close spot, have you noticed they turn down the radio? Like,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
know,
they do.
you know
Sometimes,
that
yeah.
if someone turns down the volume on the radio or turns off the radio, something serious is going on. Do you know why they're doing it?
Not really.
I mean,
Not really.
they need to
Concentrate
concentrate
on
better.
To concentrate, yes,
That's a good problem.
that's one of the biggest reasons.
Yes.
Because there's all sorts of information that we get from the environment. There are so many people. Who are these people? Oh, I was told by teacher Satanka that we'd have guests. Okay, so this is the signal detection theory. I'll explain it in a nutshell. You have the article if you want to explore it further. So you're driving down the road, you're in your car, and you just hear a sound like clunk from the engine, right? So you heard it, and because the radio is going on, and I don't know, there are cows mooing next to you, whatever is going on in the background, you're not sure if you heard it or not, right? So you're like, did it really happen or it didn't? It may seem like a very straightforward situation, but the implications might be very severe. So the consequences of the decision that you make could be really serious. And all of those things play a huge role in your decision. Now, you could say what you're supposed to do there is to try to analyze the facts, try to analyze the whole setting, I suppose, and to consider the facts. For example, if you're driving a completely new car, imagine that you just bought it and you hear a clunk. You're like, no, it can't be a clunk from the engine because I just bought it. So I'll completely disregard the sound that it made. However, if you are driving an old car and you've heard that sound before, like it does that sound twice a week, you might be prompted to stop the car and check what's going on because, as I said, the consequences might be severe. This signal detection theory is very important because eventually what it stands for is maximizing the positive outcomes and minimizing the negative outcomes. So how you should properly assess the situation in order to get the best case scenario. Though the table that's given over here might look a bit weird to you, but let me explain what it represents. So this is the clunk, the fact that it happened or it didn't happen. And on the other side, you have the fact that you decided that the clunk happened or didn't happen. So when you match all these situations, you get 4 possible outcomes. In other words, if the clunk really happened, there was something wrong with the engine, and while you're driving, you say, aha, I heard a clunk, I'm sure that I heard it. So what you do is you decide that you need service. So you will probably stop somewhere. You'll call a service to come and pick up the car so it doesn't cause any further damage. However, if the clunk didn't happen, but you say, oh, if you're paranoid and you're like, oh, I'm definitely hearing things, I definitely heard the clunk, then you call the service and they come and they pick it up with their special vehicle. They take it to the, wherever they take it. I don't know where they do that. I'm not very good with cars. And they charge you like 200 euros. They say, well, there was nothing wrong really, but you have to pay for the petrol, for the vehicle, for our time. So there was nothing wrong, but you pay all this money. There are two more possible situations where you decide that where the clunk happened, but you're like, nah, it didn't happen. And that's one of the worst case scenarios because what happens is that you're minding your own business, you're driving down the road, and suddenly your car breaks down and you can never drive it again. So just putting a blind eye, what was the idiom? It came and it went. Never mind. So if you're pretending that something didn't happen, it could have serious consequences. On the other hand, if the clunk didn't happen and you say that it didn't happen, then you're just minding your own business. You continue your journey. That's it. So all of these four scenarios are quite different from one another, and this signal detection theory could be used for every possible situation. So in order for us to test it and for you to understand it in more detail, I've come up with a table in a situation where a girl or a boy winked at you, right? First of all, I have to ask, is winking at people considered cool or has it gone away?
It's mostly considered, for me, it's considered rude. Not rude, but just disgusting. Like, why would a stranger wink at you?
No, for me it's
What if a
just like
I don't get-
cringy.
Even if it's a classmate, I'd rather punch them in the face with this. Like, give them a little lesson.
Okay.
Hey, teacher, I have a little question.
No, not now.
Like,
later. Keep the
It's not
question.
gross. It's not gross, but it's really cringe. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah,
Like, it's not
like
gross, but
why?
It was.
like
it
you're
was,
just embarrassing yourself.
It was considered really cool when I was growing up. So when we were teenagers, if you winked at someone, but now it's very old fashioned. No one really does it.
Some people even use a wink like when they're lying. They're a little bit like they don't want someone to know. Like,
Oh yeah,
let's say-
I do that.
Let's say I would
do
hang
that,
out with
yeah.
with my friends, and then my brother would get mad. He wanted to come along, and then my mom would be next to me, and then she'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're just going to the store," and then she'd wink, and she'd like,
but
"Oh
that's
yeah, you're just
different.
going
No,
to the
we're
store."
talking about a romantic wink. You like someone, and you give them a wink.
Okay, that's cringy.
That's
Don't like that.
Creepy.
It's creepy.
Stranger just winks at you.
Yeah.
Not a teacher, no, a classmate. Classmate.
That is even worse.
That's
If
yes.
it's someone
That's
older than me, then it's just
Never mind. Okay,
bad.
so let
I would
me
get that
rephrase.
man
How
arrested.
awkward that will be.
Stop talking, everyone. Listen. So let me rephrase. So a classmate winks at you in a romantic way. You have to agree that that would be a signal. He's sending some kind of a signal. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it if he didn't want to be seen. So let's see the situation. Who shall I take as okay, Daria, I'll use you as an example, all right?
Okay. Yeah.
A boy, a girl, whatever. All fine. A boy winked at you. So if he really winked at you in a romantic way, and you decide that he winked at you, so
Okay.
what would be the scenario there? What would be the outcome?
Honestly, I really don't know. I would just laugh at him.
But this
you
is
should just
this is
wink
a
at
guy.
me.
This is someone that you really like.
Oh,
Well, even if I really like him, I won't wink back because I think it's idiotic.
Okay,
But
go
I
and
don't
talk to
know.
him. Would you do that?
Yeah, maybe, but not about the wink. Like, I would just ignore the wink because, again, it's idiotic.
All right.
So I would definitely not.
But maybe you would start a
100%.
conversation. Let's say that
Yeah,
you
I
would
would,
start a
yeah.
conversation. All right.
Yeah, I would.
I think it's a logical outcome that if someone winks at you, you take the signal, you analyze the situation, and you start a conversation. Completely okay. Now let's say that this guy didn't actually wink at you, but you decided that you winked at you. He winked at you. So what do you do then?
Start a conversation. Like, it wouldn't be as scary. It just wouldn't be scary. Even if he didn't wink at me.
But imagine you go and start the conversation like, hey, you winked at me. Maybe he would go like, no, I didn't. So maybe you would be humiliated in front of everyone. So public humiliation. I like that. No,
Wait, I wouldn't actually go and just ask, did you wink at me?
maybe you
Yeah.
would.
That's just weird.
I just ignore them. Probably just leave the room as well. Like just.
But
I would
imagine
never
that,
hear. I'm just
okay,
a ghost.
let's take me as an example. A really attractive lady winks at me, and I'm like, okay, she wants to meet me. I don't know. I go there, and she says, "What are you doing? Who do you think you are? Go away, Quasimodo." She does that to me. I'll feel embarrassed in public. So that's one of the outcomes. Let's see about the other case. So if this. Never mind. Let's use me as an example. It's much better. I don't want to put you in the spotlight. So this lady winks at me. She did wink at me, but I'm saying like, nah, she didn't. I'm just. My mind is playing tricks on me. She didn't. What's the outcome there?
As I said once again, ignore the person.
No, it's not about ignoring. It's about so she expressed her interest for me, but I don't believe it. I'm like, no, I'm not that attractive. She wouldn't do that. Nah. And what do I do?
That just
Wait,
miss out.
oh no, I'm not that attractive. Why would
You
people even
decided-
stare at me?
You decided that she didn't. Well,
Yeah.
what's the point?
She did, but
Well,
I
yeah.
decided that
Did
she
you-
didn't. So I stay forever alone. That's
Yeah, you
basic.
miss out on maybe like a
If
potential
just
relationship.
one lady
Maybe.
winks at you
We
and
don't
you
know.
decide not, it doesn't mean that you're.
If someone ever winked at me, I'd either just ignore them or just a
We
little.
get it. Okay, no one
I don't
wink
like
at
it.
no one wink at Adea, please. She'll kill you. All right. What if this happens? She didn't. So we established communication. I mean, I'm just looking around. She winks at. She doesn't wink at me, and I decide that she didn't wink at me. Nothing happens, right?
Nothing.
Everything is fine, I guess,
Okay.
because just like
I mean, I don't know what's the point of this winking table.
It's
Exactly.
the point is that you take a signal and you come up with a decision. You make a decision. So what we are exploring here is how you perceive your environment, how you take the clues like a detective to make a logical decision. Now, what about this? This is a normal situation. I didn't know that woman. Now, imagine this. One of my friends comes and she says, hey, listen, today I'm organizing a party and there's someone who wants to meet you. She really likes you. Her name is Gal Gadot, right? Thanks, wonderful woman, by the way. So she says Gal Gadot is coming to the party and she really likes you. And I'm at one corner of the room, Gal Gadot is on the other one, and I'm observing her, right? I'm just minding my own business. And let's say that she winks at me. If I have the information that she expressed her interest for me beforehand, is it going to affect this table over here?
Yeah, definitely.
How, Daria? Daria, could you please tell me
Well,
how?
because you heard like previously that she has a crush on you,
Yeah.
so you would assume that she's winking on you, like that the wink is actually directed towards you. Like it's just how it works.
The romantic way, like
The
hey.
romantic wing. So the idea is that the more information you have, the more the table changes. This is something that's used in psychology. By the way, this is a very serious thing. I mean, I'm making it look like it's not a big deal with the winking and stuff, but this is used in psychology. It's used for interviews. It's used for everything. There was a very interesting case. I'll give you another case. All right. So imagine that you are the guard. Faustino, I'll take you as an example. Imagine that you're the security in the school, right? And you're there at the front gate, and I come with my hands behind my head, behind my back, right? Will you be suspicious, or will you think that, okay, that's the way he walks? You might think that I'm carrying something, but you won't really be that suspicious.
I don't
Now,
think I will.
imagine that it was during wartime. Imagine if it was a war and you were the security during a war. A normal situation
Like
where
the security
someone
of the
would be
school.
walking, just a second, imagine that if someone was walking with their hands behind their back during wartime, you would be more suspicious because you would interpret it as someone holding a weapon. So that's
Nukes or a
the whole
bomb.
thing, that the more information you have, the more difficult it is to make the right decision. Most of the time. Sometimes it could actually help you. Do you understand it?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Let me move on to another thing. Does anyone know what this is?
Teacher, I think I know. I think I know. I think I know. Teacher, I think I know.
Yes.
So people used to get these things and like hide soldiers in them, and then give them as a gift, and then they would attack.
That wasn't one story.
It has
That
happened.
was
It's a
just-
Trojan horse.
It is
Yeah.
Explosion.
To be
device.
honest, I thought that when I asked you what is this, that you would say it's a horse, and I would point at the title and say, of course it's a horse, but you.
Hello, bro. Well,
Of course
teacher,
it's-
now we
Your best
are
title ever.
21st century. So.
Okay, all right. Now let me.
Teacher, I have a question.
Yes. Okay.
The whole ranking thing, it happened to me once. The girl was a close friend, and she literally winked at me every day, and I didn't know what to do. And I didn't know she liked me because I don't get the point. And
I
there
can
was that
never relate
one
in my life.
And
there was that one awkward time that I didn't know what to do, so I was really like, what do I do now?
well,
Oh,
now you know.
no.
You have to analyze the whole situation in order to make a logical decision. Now, let me continue with two really important bits. I'm going to talk about the two epic fails in history. I'll talk about the Battle of Karachebes, and I hope that's the pronunciation. I mean, I apologize if I butchered
No
it.
idea. What that means.
And the Trojan War. So, because I don't know who's present at the lesson, I have to explain it, give you some feedback on, not feedback, give you some information about what the Trojan War was. This is something that you might have studied. I don't know if it's part of our curriculum. Is it? Do you
What?
study this? Do you study the Trojan War?
No.
I don't think. No, I don't remember.
So this
Probably
is what
not.
happened. This thing went so far that people at one point completely disregarded it as a historical event. They thought it was fiction. They thought that it was just a made-up story. And actually, Troy does exist, and the battle did take place. So this happened in the 12th century BC. That's almost 3,000 years ago, a very long time ago. In a nutshell, I'd love to explain the whole thing. This is one of my personal favorite stories because it has to do with mythology, but we don't have time to do that. So, Paris, in Troy, there's a city, Troy, and there are two princes, Hector and Paris, like the city, but not the city, the prince, who was incredibly good looking. And in the movie adaptation, he's played by Orlando Bloom. Really attractive guy. So Paris falls in love with Helen. But the problem is that Helen was married to Agamemnon. He was a Greek guy. So, but he says, listen, I love you so much, I'll take you back to Troy. And she says, okay, I'll come with you. There's a lot of backstory, but I won't explain it. So she goes, Paris takes Helen to Troy, and when Agamemnon, wakes up, he sees that Helen is not there. Where is she? He hears that Paris took her, so he starts a war. And the war lasts for 10 years. And some of the best fighters, Greek fighters, participate in the war, like Achilles, his best friend Patroclus, Ajax, a lot of great warriors. And there is a huge fight. It lasts, as I said, it lasts for 10 years. Now, the thing where things went wrong is that Homer, he was a Greek writer, he wrote the story, but he embellished it. He wrote more things about the gods, that the gods also participated, that they were divided in two sides. So Zeus was against Hera and stuff like that. So When people heard it, like 100 years after that, they were like, nah, this didn't happen. How is that possible? It couldn't have happened. So that's why people thought it didn't happen. Never mind. It did, because I've been there. You can actually go to and see the ruins of Troy in Çanakkale in Turkey. It's there. They've dug up some artifacts and stuff. So Homer wrote this in the Iliad. The Iliad is one of the greatest things ever written, greatest books. And it depicts the last 6 months of the war.
Teacher, sorry to interrupt you, but can I leave the lesson early today?
Of course. Sure, no problem. I just wanted to,
Sorry.
the way I'm going to end the lesson, Daria, is by asking if the Trojans made a mistake by accepting the horse. So just think about it that way. So, they couldn't breach the walls because the walls in Troy were huge, so they couldn't get inside. So one of the Greek soldiers, Odysseus, he was the smartest of them all, he came up with an idea and he said, listen, I know what we're going to do. So we know that the patron saint, the patron god of Troy is Athena. Athena was the goddess of wisdom in Greek mythology. And he said, this is what we're going to do. We'll pretend to leave, to sail away, and we'll make a huge wooden horse, and we'll hide ourselves inside it, and we'll offer it as a gift to them. So that's what they did. When the Trojans woke up in the morning, they saw that the boats had sailed, and the only thing on the shore was this huge wooden horse. And the soldiers, the best soldiers, Greek soldiers, were inside. So there were people who were like, no, leave it there, it might be a trap, but most people were, wait, this is Athena's present for us, because the horse was a sacred animal for the Trojans. So they were like, oh, we won the war, our goddess is rewarding us. So what they did, they opened the city wall, the city gates, not the wall, you can't open a wall. So they opened the city gates, they brought the horse inside, and they had a party. Everyone was drunk, they drank a lot of alcohol, it was a huge feast. So everyone fell asleep at midnight. I don't know what the time was, but never mind, they fell asleep. So when they fell asleep, the Greek soldiers opened the secret door from the horse's belly, I suppose, and they went and opened the door for everyone, and all the Greek soldiers came back with their boats and entered the city, and they killed everyone, and they sacked the city. They stole all the treasure, and they killed everyone. So my question for you is, based on the signal detection theory that we just talked about, did the Trojans make a mistake? Don't start talking at the same time, just raise your hand if you want to answer. Frosina would like to answer. Frosina, did the Trojans make a mistake?
I wanted first to tell you that teacher Tatanka already told us the story, but just in a different way. Yeah. And I think that they did make a mistake, a really big mistake for the whole town or city or whatever that is.
Okay, Nicola, what's your opinion?
Teacher, I think that it's based on how you look at it. If, like, a wartime, they did make a mistake by not checking the fact that it might be a trap, but since they got checked because it's a horse and that's a resemblance of their religion, that way they didn't make a mistake because that's what they believe in.
It's not like the Trojans were dumb. They were really smart. If they had built such a big city and such a big civilization, they weren't stupid. So the reason why I don't think that they made a mistake was because of this is the thing. I don't think the Trojans made a mistake, but I think that the Greeks did the right thing. I don't know if it makes any sense to you.
Yeah, it does.
But you don't always win by the other team making mistakes. You win by being better. For example, what kind of an example can I give you? I'll think of it. I still haven't thought of it. All right, Adele, what about you? What do you think?
I think I don't know actually. I feel like it could have been a mistake, but maybe it wasn't because maybe they were prepared or something. I don't know, because maybe they knew it. We don't know. Maybe they checked and maybe they knew it. Mm-hmm. So like they took the horse and maybe after they got out, they got ready to attack the people. Because there has to be a certain limit of people, not like all that much.
And you know, there's one thing that there's a saying that victors write history, that or history is written by the victors, whatever the wording is. It means that anyone who wins a battle doesn't really emphasize the mistakes of their opponents, but they want to emphasize how good they were. It's the same thing with you, for example. If you are debating against another team and you win, when you come back to me giving me feedback, are you going to say, well, we won because they sucked, they were really bad? No, you will say, well, we did better. Teacher, I did the rule of three, I did really good argumentation, I had wonderful examples. That's the thing. So in this case, the Greeks had a wonderful technique that they used as an ace in their sleeve, right? So that's how they won. I have to stop sharing because there's 3 minutes. I'll just restart the meeting. I want you to at least come back for 10 more minutes because I'll explain the other battle. This one is hilarious. It's a
Yes,
I don't know
okay.
how such a thing could happen in history. If you saw that in a movie, you wouldn't believe it. You would be like, no.
People in the past
Really,
were really
I
tough.
want a bit of humor just so I can laugh a bit right now. So I think that'll be good.
All right, so come back. I'm restarting the meeting. Come
Yeah,
back
okay.
in 2 minutes.
All right.